From stories across the world to stories here at home, this is the National News Broadcast. A very good evening to you. I'm Nitya Delivera.
A very good evening indeed. I'm Charita Vinipurarachi, and let's move on to the headlines for tonight's news. The government is firm in its decision to ban importation of duty-free vehicles. The Prime Minister instructs to reopen the beach from Panadura to Negombo for fishing activities upon proper evaluation of the situation. An agreement has been reached between the physicians and officials pertaining to the vaccination program in the Colombo district. The project to allow students to engage in learning via online technology without any charges is to be unveiled on the 21st of next month.
Now, in your top story this evening, Cabinet spokesman Minister Dr. Kelly Rambukwalas says that the government has decided to ban the importation of duty-free vehicles for parliamentarians. Now, the decision was taken during last Monday's cabinet meeting. The minister told Media and Candid today that some groups have failed to understand the relevant cancellation procedures and are propagating false information. Minister Dr. Kelly Rambukwalas said that some groups have failed to understand the proposal presented to the cabinet in this regard by the Prime Minister. He added that these groups are behaving in this manner either because they have not understood the situation or they are entertaining political rivalries.
And meanwhile, the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna says that people should not be subjected to additional burden by means of fuel prices increases at this occasion when they are already being tormented by the COVID pandemic. General Secretary of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Attorney at Law Parliamentarian Sagara Karivasam, issuing a communique, says that it is the opinion of its party that this situation should be changed. The Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, focusing attention on the issue, says that the government was compelled to face a difficult situation due to the minister in charge failing to take the relevant decisions at the appropriate moment. The communique further points out that a reasonable doubt has been created as to whether this was a deliberate move to subject the party and leaders to disgrace. The General Secretary of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna further points out that under such circumstances should take direct responsibility of the situation and resign from his portfolio.
Now, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa has instructed officials yesterday to conduct an appropriate study on the beachfront from Panadura to Negombo, affected by the Express Pearl disaster, to take speedy measures to reopen the area for fishing activities. It has also been pointed out at a discussion conducted at Temple Trees that a comprehensive evaluation should be conducted on the damages caused to all sectors, including the environment, fishing and the economy as a result of the fire that erupted in the vessel. The Prime Minister has also ordered to expedite the necessary legal procedures pertaining to receiving compensation from the relevant shipping line and also to remove the burnt-out vessel from its present location. He also reiterated that the relevant legal measures should be conducted under the directions of the Department of the Attorney General. The Prime Minister further said at the discussion that the 5,000 rupee allowance currently being presented to low-income earners confronting the COVID pandemic will also be provided to the fishing community affected by this disaster with effect from next Monday. State Minister Nalaka Godaheva said that this is a ship which regularly arrives in Sri Lanka. It has visited the island in March as well as in April this year. The State Minister added that the fire that erupted 12 hours after reaching the Colombo harbour. He also said that the ship had not informed the local authority regarding any problem. The story relating to the ship entering the port in the midst of opposition of the authorities is an issue fabricated to accuse the government. This is a feeder vessel. It normally sails from one harbour to another. There have been 6 destinations for the ill-fated vessel. It had left Singapore and arrived in Malaysia, then in Saudi Arabia, and later on reached Qatar. It is a fallacy to say that this ship was refused entry to any port. The truth is that it was engaged in container handling and every port it was anchored in. Minister Rohit Abegunawardena said that the VDR machine of the ship was handed over to the CID on the 5th of this month. It was recovered from the burnt-out vessel through the assistance of the Navy. According to the data, the ship had entered every port in its destination schedule.
නීතියානුකූලව අපිට කියන්න පුළුවන් තත්ත්වයක් තියෙනවා.
අපි දැනට අපේ දීවර අමාත්‍යංශනොත් ඩග්ලස් දේවානන්ද
State Minister Kanchana Vijayasekara said that the Fisheries Ministry has also set up a committee under the leadership of Minister Douglas Devananda. The committee deals with the damages caused to the fishing sector. He added that fishing has been halted only in the affected sea areas. As a result, around 20,000 families have been deprived of their livelihoods. Therefore, the government has decided to hand over the 5,000 rupee allowance to the affected fishermen as well. They will receive the payments with effect from next Monday. Ministers Douglas Devananda, Mahinda Amaravira and Ali Sabri, Prime Minister's Secretary Gamini Senarath, the Attorney General Sanjay Rajaratnam and Navy Commander Vice Admiral Nishant Olagethan have also participated in the discussion.
Moving to the local update of the COVID-19 pandemic situation, the government, physicians and officials have come to an agreement regarding systematic implementation of the vaccination program in the Colombo district. A problematic situation has arisen recently due to misunderstanding between the two groups. Minister Pavitra Vanyarachi has presided over a discussion at the Health Ministry this morning to overcome the situation. The meeting was attended by officials of the relevant parties as well as trade union representatives. Governor of the Western Province, Marshal of the Air Force Roshan Gunathilaka and Chairman of the Colombo District Development Committee and Parliamentarian Pradeep Untugoda was also present at this occasion. Meanwhile, the Health Ministry says that it has received adequate quantities of the vaccine needed for the administering of the second dose of the vaccination program. Vaccination of persons over the age of 60 years in the Kandy district is scheduled to commence tomorrow. The vaccination program was successfully conducted today as usual. The vaccination program being conducted through sponsorship of the Sri Lanka Army was conducted at the Roxy Gardens in Wellawatte today as well. 184 persons have received the second dose of the Covishield vaccine yesterday. The first dose of the vaccine was delivered on 42,569 persons yesterday. So far, 45,580 persons have received the second dose of this vaccine. A total number of 2,632,706 persons have received the vaccine since the commencement of the vaccination program. Meanwhile, the police says a further 1,027 persons have been arrested on charges of violating health guidelines in the 24 hours that ended at 6 a.m. today. The island-wide travel restrictions are being enforced till 4 a.m. on the 21st of this month. The search operations have also been carried out today as well. All economic centres throughout the island will remain open for bulk trade tomorrow as well. Distribution of essential food items is being carried out continuously. Payment of pensions has been conducted today as well at post offices throughout the island. 1,633 COVID-19 patients were detected in the country today. Meanwhile, 2,426 patients left the hospitals today following recovery. Accordingly, the total recoveries in the country has increased up to a total of 186,516. 31,967 COVID-19 patients are still receiving treatments in hospitals. The Director General of Health Services has confirmed 62 COVID-related deaths from 8th May to the 10th of this month. Accordingly, the total number of deaths has been increased to 2,073. Among them are 7 deaths reported on 8th to the 31st of last month and 55 deaths reported from the 1st to the 10th of this month. The 1,000-bed COVID-19 intermediate treatment centre established at the Mahameunao Meditation Centre in Kundasale was declared open by Minister Dr. K.L. Rambukpalla today. The MAS group of companies has contributed 12 million rupees for the setting of the centre. Venerable Nalande Pavarathera of the Kundasale Mahameunao Meditation Centre, Provincial Governor Lalit Yugamage, District Development Committee Chairman Parliamentarian Wasantayapa Bandara, State Ministers Dilu Mamunugama and Lohan Ratwate has also participated in this event. Provision of essential food items to those affected by the inclement weather condition and imposition of travel restrictions has taken place at the Bearwell Divisional Secretariat Division Office today. State Minister P.L. Nishanta and Pakistan High Commissioner in Sri Lanka, retired Major General Muhammad Saad Patak, was also present. The food items have been donated by Pakistan.
Now, Deputy Director General of Health Services Dr. Hemantha Herath has clarified on this occasion regarding the present situation pertaining to the COVID-19 pandemic in Sri Lanka. He has also discussed the situation relating to the imposition and extension of travel restrictions and the program to prevent the spread of the COVID-19 disease.
Concerns have again raised about the proportion or the rate of infection in relation to the population in Sri Lanka compared to countries like India. And we know that in certain, under the present circumstances, the figures indicate that Sri Lankan status is a little bit serious. Compared to the population, our figures are relatively high, and I hope that public will give their fullest cooperation to reduce the new emergence of cases, and from there onward we should be able to attain reasonable level of figures or indicators that can, for which we can be satisfied. Again, related to the extension of these travel restrictions, we cannot immediately conclude as a result of these travel restrictions because it takes at least 1 or 2 incubation periods to see the exact results. However, since imposing of these travel restrictions, we have been able to flatten the curve where the number of cases are going parallel to the zero line. In that case, we hope that this will be improved in the coming days. And extension of the travel restriction, the decision is taken after carefully evaluating all the circumstances, the disease status, deaths, the other circumstances in which the disease can spread, and also other social and economic implications that can arise as a result of extended travel restrictions. So therefore, this extension of the travel restriction need to be taken very seriously by the people to ensure that these all are adhering to the travel restrictions and thereby contributing to prevent the spread of disease.
Now, in the meantime, taking a quick look at the situation abroad, Royal Caribbean and Carnival said yesterday the plans to relaunch cruises from the US were on track despite 2 COVID-19 infections in one of the first cruises since the industry was allowed to sail again in the Americas.
Cruises are just starting to return to the high seas after more than a year of being grounded by the pandemic. And there's already 2 cases of COVID-19 aboard a ship. Royal Caribbean revealed late Thursday that 2 guests aboard its Celebrity Millennium ship have tested positive for COVID-19. The 2 passengers, who are sharing a room, are said to be asymptomatic and are being isolated from others on the ship. Royal Caribbean says it is doing contact tracing and fast-tracking tests for anyone who has come in close contact with the pair. A cruise ship expert who was on the ship told Reuters that life on board appeared to be back to normal and no one is wearing masks. This was one of the first cruises to restart sailing last week in North America after the pandemic forced cruising to be halted for more than a year. Royal Caribbean had to agree to new CDC guidelines requiring all crew members be vaccinated and anyone over 16 present proof of vaccination. The cruise ship operator told Reuters Friday that this incident will not derail its plans to launch more voyages this summer. Carnival, which announced this week that it would start sailing from U.S. ports this summer with fully vaccinated guests, also said its relaunch plans remain on track. Norwegian Cruise Lines is planning to add more trips from multiple U.S. ports. Passengers and crew must be fully vaccinated with proof. Cruise operators are among the last to return to their pre-pandemic operations after outbreaks on ships last year.
Farming is the main source of livelihood in people in Borneo. It has also been reported that a significant number of persons in that area have already been afflicted with the kidney disease. The farmer says that the usage of chemical fertilizer has contributed to this pathetic plight. There are 505 villages in the 102 Gramadadhari divisions in the Borneo district. The main cultivation of the farmers is paddy. Vegetables, fruits and pulses are other main crops. Kidney patients have been identified in a majority of villages in the district. 16 kidney patients have been detected in the Aludgama village in the Alagala Gramadadhari division alone. The farmers request the government to provide the organic fertilizer at reasonable prices and to safeguard the future of themselves and their children.
Now, the Consumer Affairs Authority has raided yesterday a sales outlet in Kuliapitia which sold fertilizer at a higher price to farmers. Now, the farmers who arrived at the outlet were able to purchase fertilizer at relief prices with the intervention of the authorities. The incident was reported from Galganmulla in Kuliapitia. The Consumer Affairs Authority received information pertaining to a bag of urea fertilizer selling for 5,000 rupees instead at the relief price of 1,500 rupees. The 57 bags of urea fertilizer, 50 kilos each, were prepared to be sold at exorbitant prices were nabbed. The Kandy District branch of the Consumer Affairs Authority also raided a sales outlet in Galagedara Hatreliyadda which was selling fertilizer at high prices yesterday. A 50-kilo bag of fertilizer valued at 1,500 rupees was reported to be sold for 3,000 rupees. The raid was carried out under the supervision of Kandy District Secretary Chandana Tennakode. Officials of the Consumer Affairs Authority took measures to sell to the farmers the seized fertilizer stocks at the relief price. Meanwhile, a group of officials at the Gampa Centre of the Consumer Affairs Authority raided a business place in Bukulagama in the Pallewala Agrarian Services Division, which was alleged to have engaged in selling fertilizer beyond the controlled prices. Now, on a similar note, the ban of the chemical fertilizer is a widely discussed topic in the country these days. Professor of the Department of Medical Education, Faculty of Medicine of the University of Colombo, Indika Mahesh Karunatilaka, says that this should be conducted methodically.
Move towards organic agriculture is a commendable decision, but it has to be gradual. We can cite examples from two countries that has tried to move towards organic agriculture, reducing the use of agrochemicals. One example is Bhutan, another example is Cuba. Initially, those countries have long-term plans to move towards organic agriculture and reduction of agrochemicals. But later, based on the expert opinion and the evidence that were emerging, the countries have changed their initial plan and now they are moving towards more integrated agriculture and a long-term methodical process of moving towards organic agriculture. So all these factors and evidence shows it is a decision that has to be taken methodically based on scientific evidence and implemented gradually and stepwise.
3 Antonov 32 passenger transporting aircraft of the Sri Lanka Air Force, which have undergone comprehensive repairs in Ukraine, have returned to the island. Last night, and Defence Secretary General Kamal Gunaratne, Air Force Commander Air Marshal Sudarshana Patrana and other officials were present at the Katunayaka Air Force Base to receive the aircraft. The 3 aircrafts had been sent to Ukraine for full repairs in August of last year, according to an agreement reached between the Antonov Company of the Sri Lanka Air Force. A group of officials of the Sri Lanka Air Force had also left for Ukraine with the objective of assisting the repairing program. The Antonovs are the largest cargo transportation aircraft owned by the Sri Lanka Air Force. They have also been used for the transportation of injured soldiers and carrying of essential items during the period of humanitarian operations. However, these aircrafts had been withdrawn from active service since November 2014. They were replaced by helicopters. The commander of the Sri Lanka Air Force, Air Marshal Sudarshana Patrana, says the recommissioning of the 3 upgraded aircraft, the air power of the Sri Lanka Air Force has been increased by 75%.
Coming back with you all, so keep up the good work, man. This is for the squadron.
Air Force Commander Air Marshal Sudarshana Patrana said that the Sri Lanka was able to accomplish the deal at the lowest price of $7.5 million through the discussions. They would enable to provide assistance to people in times of the disasters and also to strengthen the defense mechanism of the country.
මිත්‍ර රටවල් වලින් අපිට මේ ගුවන් යානා යොදාගෙන අපේ ශ්‍රී ලංකා මහ ජනතාවට ඒ වගේම දේපල සහ ජීවිත සුරකීමට අවශ්‍ය ඒ ආම්පන්න උනත් අපිට ඉතා ඉක්මනින් දැන් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවට ලබා ගැනීමට හැකියාව තියෙනවා.
මේ ගුවන් යානා
Defence Secretary General Kamal Gunaratne said that the President has provided and approved the relevant funds for the upgrading of the aircraft, which had remained grounded for around 7 years. He added that aircraft could also be utilized to apprehend drug trafficking and to monitor the land and the sea from the air.
සමුද්‍ර කලාප ආවේක්ෂණය.
Now, the government reiterates that all importers, producers, storekeepers, accumulators and distributors of the commodity items rice, sugar, milk powder and maize should be registered with the Consumer Affairs Authority. 3 relevant gazette notifications were issued in this regard last night. According to the Gazette notifications, it is prohibited to engage in importing, producing, storing and distributing the relevant consumer items without receiving registration. The relevant group should register in the authority 7 days upon release of the Gazette notification. It further says that the relevant laws will not become applicable for the storage of harvest received from paddy and maize cultivators.
And meanwhile, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa says that the International Labour Organization and the United Nations Children's Fund have named this year as the International Year of the Receipt of Child Labour as a means to fulfill the global sustainable targets. He further points out that we would appreciate the commitments to evaluate the welfare of the children and on a more promising avenue. The Prime Minister, issuing a message in connection with the World Anti-Child Labour Day, further says that the President government has taken numerous measures to halt the receipt of child labour. He has also expressed hope that Sri Lanka would be able to completely terminate the process of receiving child labour in the near future and to fulfil the global sustainable targets. Legislation have been introduced to prevent utilisation of children in inappropriate employment and to protect children from exploitation of their labours. Some of these laws have been updated. It is banned to deploy children under the age of 16 years in employment in Sri Lanka. It is a punishable offence to engage in these activities. A systematic program is also underway to direct children under the age of 16 years who are not attending schools to receive school education. The communique issued by the Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa also reiterates that childhood should be granted to children and the right for them to secure a systematic education should also be safeguarded.
Now, the attention of the government has been focused on providing 3 internet services for all children engaged in education through the online system. The e-Takshalava program is to provide the services free of charge with effect from 31st of next month. Students in 200 schools are to receive these benefits. Minister Nama Rajapaksa disclosed these facts at a discussion at Temple Trees yesterday. Minister Rajapaksa has instructed officials to create opportunities enabling a large number of students to receive technical facilities in a single instance. Minister Nama Rajapaksa said that a program covering the entire country will be made within 2 years to enable the students to gain internet access without any problem. Measures will be taken to provide 4G and 5G coverage to the entire island.
And a project to create artificial environmental networks for marine species, including fishes in the coastal areas of the seas surrounding the islands in Jaffna, has commenced yesterday. The attention has been focused on the sea areas beyond the Delft Island in Jaffna. The Department of Fishing and Aquatic Resources in implementing the project through the assistance of the Sri Lanka Navy. Under the project, 20 bus buddies withdrawn from usage are to be submerged in the seabed with the objective of enhancing biodiversity of marine species. The aim is to create a man-made marine environment through the utilization of artificial layers. 4 bus buddies were safely placed under the seabed through the aid of excavation vessel Sairu belonging to the Fisheries Harbour Corporation. Divers of the Northern Naval Command have extended support for the project. The ultimate objective of the recreation, a higher biodiversity, is to obtain a higher fish output. And with that, we conclude tonight's news. Do it just tomorrow at the very same time. Stay safe. Good night.
Good night.